sekalian, yang berbahagia sekali lagi, Profesor Dr. Imran Abdullah, Wakil Rasmi Naib Chancellor UKM, Encik Leonard Ariff, Pengarah Urusan Kumpulan Duopharma Biotech Berhad, yang berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Jamia Azdina Jamal, Dekan Fakulti Farmasi Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, yang berbahagia barisan ahli lembaga pengarah Duopharma Biotech, barisan pengurusan utama Universiti bersama Duopharma Biotech, Pegawai Kanan Kementerian Universiti dan Industri, serta hadirin sekalian. Majlis kita pada hari ini diteruskan dengan menjemput yang berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Jamia Azdina Jamal, Dekan Fakulti Farmasi UKM, untuk menyampaikan ucapan pengenalan Syarahan CEO. Majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan.
Warga dan para pelajar UKM dan dikasihi sekalian, alhamdulillah dan syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kerana sesi menandatangani MOA dan minum pagi juga sudah selesai. Maka kita terus ke acara yang berikutnya. Dan bagi pihak Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, saya merangkapkan kesyukuran pada pagi ini kerana tetamu khas kita, iaitu Encik Leonard Ariff bin Abdul Shattar, sudi meluangkan masa untuk berkongsi pengetahuan dan pengalaman beliau bersama pelajar dan warga UKM sekalian. Sebelum tirai ceramah dibuka, izinkan saya untuk memperkenalkan penceramah kita pada pagi ini. Seperti yang sedia maklum, Encik Leonard Ariff ialah pengarah urusan Kumpulan Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Beliau mempunyai kelulusan ijazah dalam Sarjana Muda Ekonomi dari Monash University, Melbourne, Australia. Beliau sememangnya Arif, namun dan berpengetahuan luas dengan lebih 30 tahun pengalaman dalam bidang perundangan dan industri farmaceutical. Beliau juga pernah memegang jawatan Presiden Pertubuhan Industri Farmaceutical Malaysia, iaitu MOPI, dan beliau juga merupakan pengerusi Lembaga Penasihat Industri di Monash University. Selain daripada lantikan, dan ini sangat yang paling penting untuk kita, sebagai CEO at Faculty Program di UKM. Dengan pengalaman yang begitu luas, pasti kita semua amat teruja untuk mendengar ceramah oleh CEO kita pada pagi ini. Maka majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan Encik Leonard Ariff untuk menyampaikan ceramah beliau. Majlis dengan sukacitanya mempersilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. It's actually quite interesting that whenever I come to universities like Malaysia sekarang, that I always pay attention to the gender balance, because gender balance or imbalance. Kerana not too long ago I attended a session that was conducted by international agency. Kenapa mereka pilih Malaysia, I have no idea. Tapi the program was about increasing the participation of women in STEM. So I went to this conference, and around the table, semua professors, and Nurul Izzah was the guest of honor. So she stood up to give a speech, and the first thing she said was, I don't know why this conference is being done in Malaysia, because in Malaysia we don't have a problem about women participation in science. If anything, we have what is called the lost boy syndrome. The lost boy is someone yang motosikal malam-malam. But even within the industry, you're going to find that the participation of women is increasing at an exponential rate. In Duopharma sekarang, 52% of our staff, based on the latest calculation, are actually women. And for every one job that we have available, especially at the management level, generally we get 75% female applicants, 1 male, 25% male applicants. So for those who are female and in the pharmaceutical school, you've chosen the right career. Okay, because the guys are going to be pushed out of this industry. But, and this is why I started off with this story, you're about to enter an industry where entrepreneurship is not just limited to kalau you buka community pharmacy. If that's your idea of entrepreneurship, then you got it wrong. Entrepreneurship is required in almost any job you do, and that will be the subject matter of the presentation. The main benefit you have in a university like UKM is your interaction with fellow students, etc. And don't underestimate the ability for you to sell yourself. Okay? I know kat Malaysia ni kita kadang-kadang very self-conscious, shy, and especially those who went secondary school before coming to UKM, you were in an all-girls boarding school or all-boys boarding school. Then gender interaction becomes awkward as well. So the main part of my presentation afterwards, I'm going to talk a little bit about the why, if you want to have or to be able to call yourself an entrepreneur, you need salesmanship skills. I have over the years been so tempted to say every staff yang masuk Duopharma should have at least 6 months in sales, to throw them into the deep end so that they understand it's not about the amount of knowledge you have, it's also about how you sell yourself as an individual and you sell the knowledge that you have. Right? It's one of the areas that I've always noticed, especially among the Malays. Disegat. Okay? And I'll tell you some anecdotal stories afterwards, which is actually quite amusing. But it illustrates why sales and being able to sell yourself is the first step towards any entrepreneur. But I'll start off my presentation by giving you just a little bit of background regarding Duopharma so that everybody's on the same page before I start on the presentation proper. So let's see if I can get this working. Okay, sorry. There's a video attached to the video. Okay. We'll start with the video and then a short presentation happening.
1979, the Duopharma journey begins. In 2005, we became part of Chemical Company of Malaysia. And later on, we were known as CCN Duopharma Biotech Berhad. It initiated an exciting era. A good era. As the world evolved, so do we.
In this new era, and with the new corporate branding, Duopharma Biotech will strive to become one of the leading pharma and biotech players in the region as well as globally.
The new era shall bring more challenges, but with wholehearted commitment, the new era will be rewarded.
It's been an incredible journey we've all had in Duopharma over these last few years. We've seen success over success, and as we move into this era of a new name, a new company logo, let's look forward to more success for us as we move forward.
Introducing Duopharma Biotech. Welcome to a new era of pharmaceuticals, providing smarter solutions for a healthier life. A leading healthcare group providing quality and innovative solutions. Smarter solutions, healthier life. Updated technologies, renewed beginnings. Duopharma Biotech. Smarter solutions, healthier life.
Okay, so that presentation is to explain kenapa kadang-kadang people call us CCM, kadang-kadang people call us Duopharma. So what we've said that eventually every function we go to, we're going to go about in my logo. Letak atas meja. And anybody who uses the word CCM masukkan 50 sen. It's a fine in order to convince ourselves, because I have to remind myself that we're now called Duopharma. So, hang on. So this is the vision of the company, providing smarter solutions for a healthier life, leading healthcare group, providing quality and innovative solutions. Basically, we're a healthcare group. Okay? We've grown to become the largest healthcare group in Malaysia in terms of manufacturing. So dari segi pembuatan, volume-wise, we're number 1 in Malaysia. And in terms of value, that means nilai penjualan tu, we're number 2. And number 2 basically means, because when I say number 2, everybody wonders who's number 1. So number 1 is Pfizer. Pfizer is the largest pharmaceutical company in Malaysia, and we're number 2. Tapi dari segi manufactured domestically, then obviously we become number 1. So we have certain core values. You'll find that most companies that you go to nowadays will have core values as an organization. So we have our core values: passion, excellence, teamwork, integrity, responsible, and respect as well. As I said, we're the number 1 local pharmaceutical. Our revenue for 2018 was roughly about 122 million. Kalau tengok in ringgit, it works up to 499 million. We were 1 million short of being for the historical milestone of 500 million turnover. But we want to be a top 5 generic pharmaceutical company in ASEAN by 2022. Now that will involve obviously acquiring. Tapak dia tak boleh just in Malaysia. The idea is we don't want to just be jago kampung. That if you want to be successful, you have to have higher aspirations as well. So this is the list of companies, the top 10 companies in Malaysia. There's only 2 Malaysian companies on it, Duopharma Biotech, which is the 2nd largest. This is by value. And you also have Pharma Niaga and Ulapan. So this is tracked by a third-party provider. This year, in fact, if I was standing here this time last year, we would have been number 3. This year, over the last course of, at the end of third quarter 2018, we actually overtook MSD. MSD was at that stage number 2, so we overtook them. So now our aspirations is how do we take over Pfizer? You know, obviously, if you want to be the biggest pharmaceutical company in Malaysia, it'd be nice if it was a Malaysian-owned company rather than an overseas-based company. Back in 2010, we were evaluating sama ada we could survive as a generic company in the long term in Malaysia, because all our products are made by our competitors juga, especially our tableting products, our statins, our paracetamol, everything. The level of competition in Malaysia is actually quite robust, and the moment one company produces one molecule and it's successful, semua ikut. So in a way, it actually, when people say how do you control prices in Malaysia, it's actually very much controlled by competition, ramai competitors. But we decided that one thing we noticed, if we look at our historical numbers, every time kita masuk government tender either every 2 years or every 3 years, the average price akan menurun. Okay, so if your price this time menang tender sini, 3 years later it might drop to 95 cents. 3 years later it might drop to 92 cents. So it posed a problem that we said if it continues this way, the industry itself will kill the industry because the competition would just be too severe. So then we started looking, we took out the crystal ball and said, okay, what's going to happen in the next 10 years? And we came across an article that said that biologicals by 2018, 8 out of the 10 biological products, and I'll explain what biologicals in a second, would be 8 out of the 10 top selling products globally will be biologicals. And we looked around, and siapa kat Malaysia buat biologicals? Okay. Biologicals are basically pharmaceutical product. Kebanyakan ubat macam Panadol or paracetamol is all made macam buat cake, literally. There's a formula, it gives you the weight of this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient. You put it into something that churns it all together, then you just stamp it into a tablet. The process, technology tak tinggi. Tapi biologicals became more difficult. So biologicals means that you create a medication that originates from a cell, either plant or animal cell. And that's where we said, okay, tak ada orang in this space, so let's look at the focus. So we look, what's the two largest biologicals in Malaysia? Insulin and EPO. Insulin obviously for diabetic patients, and EPO for renal patients, those people who are undergoing hemodialysis, etc. Chances are they will need EPO. And of course it's a secondary use for erythropoietin in cancer patients as well. So we then, based on that, worked backwards, and eventually we decided that if we wanted to do it entirely ourselves, the timeline would take 12 to 15 years. If we did it in partnership, we could do it in 5 years. So that's where the biggest strategic shift of the company came about. I don't know whether there's anybody here from business schools, but it's sometimes small decisions like that have a huge impact on the future of the company. So we did a strategic shift, and the board of directors was supportive to tell us that, okay, you can go into partnership. Tak payah Duopharma own 100% of everything. So we went to a partnership, originally was with a company called Biotech in Korea, and that has worked out very well. We eventually bought some shares in the company, and they're now publicly traded in Korea. And the second company we developed a relationship was Biocon. So, as I said, for those who are doing business, first lesson is small decisions can make a huge impact on your decision. And sometimes you become successful out of pure luck. Okay. Just nasib baik lah. I don't know what happened. But in Biocon's case, it was very interesting. Biocon had a joint venture to build an insulin plant in Johor, the third largest insulin plant in the world. The joint venture was between Biocon and Pfizer. Okay. And Biocon would manufacture, Pfizer would use its global network to sell the drug. Tukar head at Pfizer, new CEO at Pfizer, he decided they're not interested to go into diabetes. So Pfizer actually exited the diabetes. So they exited from this joint venture. So it left Biocon. They know how to make, they didn't know how to sell. And at that time, by coincidence, Duopharma was already looking for an insulin producer. We were talking to companies in China, companies in Europe, and then we suddenly found there was a company in Johor. Okay? So we started talking to Biocon, and now we represent Biocon in Malaysia for their insulin range. And this is what I say. I would like to say it was through pre-planning, a lot of thoughts, absolutely nothing. It was pure luck. We were ready, they needed somebody. So it was a meeting of minds. Subsequently, we decided that we'll go into oncology, so we tied up with a company in India called Netco. Netco is famous globally because they are the ones who challenged Novartis' patent on imatinib and one, okay, in India. We tied up with an American company called Mylan, which is the second or third largest generic company globally. And we also tied up with BD. BD, they manufacture needles. So it's co-concomitant with our insulin business. Right. So we have a structure. We do consumer healthcare, ethical classic, and ethical specialties. So consumer healthcare business is very much what previously we used to call OTC, over the counter. Okay, so Encik Shamsul, who's here, also from Duopharma, put your hand up if anybody wants to ask. He handles our consumer healthcare business. And the consumer healthcare business has actually been growing at double digits every year. And for those who are participating in the JATI program, I think some of them are in here. Tomorrow you'll be hearing from Shamsul a little bit more about the program and also some of the products we do. Okay, so these are some of the products that we have at the moment. CHAMPS, Children's Vitamin, Probiton, Adult Vitamin, Flavets. Flavets is a new technology we brought to Malaysia, which was effervescent. Previously, all the effervescent products in Malaysia were imported. So we've put in a facility at Bani, actually quite close by. And it's proven to be hugely successful. We put in the facility thinking it would take 5 years to reach full capacity. It reached full capacity below, well, about 1 year. So we're now struggling to how to expand that line. And we've relaunched, or in the process of relaunching, our medication for headaches, paracetamol, Euphamol, obviously a competitor to what you might know as Panadol as well. So we're hoping that eventually people will not think of Panadol, but will think of Euphamol. So apart from that, we also have Naturel, eye drops, eye glow, Dermoplex, Elucid, Donna. Elucid. Does anybody in the room recognize Elucid? Recognize? Okay. I should ask you why, because a few years ago, our sales of Elucid spiked because there was a rumor on the internet. You must say there was demonstrations in KL. I can't remember, I think it was Berhad demonstration or whatever. So they were expecting that the police might use tear gas. So there was a video I saw on YouTube that kalau you bancukan kain dalam Elucid and put it on your eyes, you will be affected by tear gas. Supposedly, I have no idea. So I shan't ask you why you know Elucid. So that's why I said, in some cases, sales suddenly shoot up for no reason. The demonstration in KL, nothing that we could have anticipated. Okay, so therapeutic classes banyak. I'm not going to go through it, and it's probably more interesting to the pharmacists than anything else. But where we're focusing is diabetes, renal, cardio, and oncology. Those are the 4 therapeutic areas that generally we are focusing and putting our money behind. So some of the classic products, Eufadil, Acetone for treating addiction, heroin addiction. We do Neodeca and also Oral 8 is ours. So some of these brands have been around in the market for a long time. And then for our specialty cardiovascular, we have some statins, and a few other products there. For diabetes, this is what the insulin pens look like. So if you go to the hospitals, if you're deemed to be diabetic, you'll be put on pens, and most likely the pens at the moment come from Biocon via Duopharma. Our specialty, obviously, in oncology. So we've got Chytron solution injection and also letrozole. Recently, we got registration for we were the first company in Malaysia to get registration for a monoclonal antibody generic. So trastuzumab, we're starting to bring into Malaysia now, supplied by Biocon. And this is actually quite interesting because the tender by the Malaysian government, I think if I'm not mistaken, the tender is they're supplying the trastuzumab at 8,000 ringgit per dose. We got our registration slightly later, so we're supplying to the market at 4,000 ringgit per dose. Okay, so you can see the difference between innovator price and when a generic equivalent comes out. It's a huge difference. So we're slowly building up our portfolio on the cancer care area. Renal, the latest registration we got was for our EPO, the product we co-developed with our Korean partner. So we do concentrates, iron sucrose, heparin, and also now our own EPO as well. So EPO is still being brought by Korea, but within the next 6 months, we'll actually be doing fill and finish in Malaysia. So in terms of international, okay. So we have Singapore, Philippines, and as an office in Indonesia as well. At the moment, we're evaluating the possibility of opening office in Myanmar as well. So you can see our focus tends to be around ASEAN. Manufacturing only in Malaysia, but we're looking at options in Philippines or Indonesia. And obviously one of the major accreditations, and when I come to the talk about selling, there's always one thing that you have to realize. To sell something successfully, you must have a unique selling proposition, what people say USP. One of the USPs that we have focused on for the last 15 years is halal pharmaceuticals. Okay, that if somebody asks me what differentiates you, what differentiates you Duopharma from Panadol? On YouTube you see some interviews with Samsul, where one of the first things that differentiates us is we have a halal integrity system or halal assurance system built into our entire, from conception of product all the way to delivery, including warehousing. And this, while it's been a difficult battle, initial period it was raising prices a little bit, but now it's becoming more mainstream. And I always say the more Muslims demand halal, the easier it will be to get halal. So it's a question of, at the moment, the initial time stage was chicken and egg. We had the halal product, but there was no demand. But that's changing. We also have certification on halal from MUI, Majlis Ulama Indonesia. But that might change because Majlis Ulama Indonesia is an NGO. We're the only country in the world that has a government managed halal assurance system. Semua yang tengok halal from UK, Australia, etc., they're all private companies. Okay, we're the only one in the world that the halal certification is actually controlled by an independent body, non-profit driven. Okay, so that's very, very key. And that's one of the reasons why I always say, as far as halal is concerned, thought leadership should be what we should be selling to the world. Because I think we've done it right in Malaysia. Okay, so I started with that, the introduction about the company. Now we talk a little bit about why I say that you can't talk about entrepreneurship without talking about salesmanship, sales. But let's get it right. We're not talking about sales macam ni, sale kat Guardian, sale kat Parkson, etc. I'm talking about hardcore sales, the ability to sell yourself, the ability to stand in front of a crowd and sell an idea. And you will be surprised how often you do it on a daily basis. You started as a child. Your parents will give you pocket money. Tak berapa RM1 seminggu kan? And then you find that you want to buy, during my days, there used to be this toy called Power Rangers. Okay, you want to buy that Power Rangers. That Power Rangers, each toy was RM3. So you had two choices. You either save for 3 weeks, your $1, don't eat, don't drink, or you convince your parents to give you $3 for that week. In that process, you are exercising your sales ability. How you convince your parent. Okay? Now, if you go on your knees and cry, then you learn nothing. Okay? The sympathy way of selling doesn't work. What I'm talking here about sales is professional selling skills. The way you are able to convince somebody to see your point of view, the way you were able to convince your parents that they were convinced if they didn't give you that RM3, you would never be the same child again and you would be scarred as a child for the rest of your life. Okay? That's salesmanship. Okay? And don't underrate it, because if you start thinking about it, you exercise salesmanship in almost every facet of your life. Don't think, I'm shy, I'm doing accounting, because accounting, duduk kat meja, just look at numbers, I don't have to interact with people. No such thing. One of the major keys about your ability to be promoted within your field of study would be your interactive skills. Very, very key. And it's not just those yang about community pharmacists that you have to have those skills. Even if you decide to be a hospital physician or hospital pharmacist, etc. Throughout my 30 years career, I've always found it quite interesting to see, and this happened just yesterday. We had a management meeting yesterday in Duopharma, and we were talking about promotion prospects. And one of my direct reports says, when we looked at the list of people being promoted, dia kata mana boleh. You can't promote that person without promoting these other two, because all three joined at the same time. Okay. So my thinking was very straightforward. I said, what has the all three joining at the same time has anything to do with promotionability? It has to be merit-based. And you're good, you're good. You're not so good, you're not so good. You just try to be better. But too often, I look and then I try to ask myself, why is it that three of them had roughly the same background, roughly the same universities, and then when you put them in the context of a working environment, why does one do better than the other two? And it's not academic results, for sure. Because if it was academic results, I wouldn't be here standing in front of you. And to be quite honest, even my entire group management committee, because our HR tells me, oh, ramai betul orang apply, so I'm going to put this 3.5. What's it called? CGPA or what's the word here? 3.5. So I asked my management committee, how many of you actually got 3.5 and above? Not even one. Not even one. So it's not educational how clever you are. Like it or not, it's something beyond that. And one of the things beyond that is your ability to sell your skills. It's one component, it's not the only component, but it's one of the components that you have to be very knowledgeable on. A lot of people see sales purely as this, the normal sales, the Parsons, etc., etc. Very easy to do, okay? I don't call the person who tries to sell you a handphone kat gerai-gerai, or if you go to, what do you call it, pasar malam, that is sales, but it's not the sales I'm talking about. I'm talking about professional sales skills. And this is something you guys have to think about, especially if I pass you a microphone and ask you to give a 2-minute presentation. Okay? I would venture a guess that the percentage that will be able to do this without any notice and comfortable doing it will probably just be 5% at your current age group. As you get older, that percentage changes. So like if I give the microphone to anybody in the back here or the front row here, they'll be able to talk for half an hour with zero preparation. Okay? It comes with experience, definitely. It comes with maturity. And it also comes with knowledge of subject. Okay? And I'll touch upon what it takes to differentiate a good salesperson from a not so good salesperson. So, if you look at it, Zig Ziglar is a famous American author. He actually came out with a book and he actually said, I've always said that everyone is in sales. Maybe you don't hold the title of salesperson, but if the business you are in requires you to deal with people, then you are in sales. Okay? Unless you can find a job that doesn't require any human interaction. Okay? There are very few of those sort of jobs. Presenting your project in class. I mean, you've got class projects, etc. And it's quite interesting. If you look at the group dynamics, the lecturers put you in a group of 5 people. Okay? When it comes to siapa nak present ni, okay, that's always the more difficult decision than actually the work itself. And you have to ask yourself why. Because other group dynamics are quite interesting. Same group of 5 people, one person will put up their hand. And say, I want to do the presentation. Now that is not a good sign, nor is it a bad sign. Because the one person who puts up his hand could have different motives. I don't want to participate in the discussion, I'm too lazy, I'll just let everybody else do the work, I'll read it and then present it. You have those who will put up their hand because they're naturally self-confident as well. A lot of people ask me about differences between local university graduates and overseas. And we did a small experiment during our time at CCM. We go every year to UK to bring UK graduates, and then generally second class, upper and first class. We bring in about 15 every year, and we did a small experiment where we put 3 local graduates with 12 overseas graduates into our graduate program to see how different it was. And to be quite honest, for the first 3 months, one thing we noticed when we give them project, tanya siapa nak present, none of them would raise their hands. The Malaysian. Yang UK terbalik, semua raise their hands. Overconfident with no knowledge. But at the end of 18 months, when we did an assessment of the top student to come out of the program, it was actually a Malaysian graduate. The difficulty was English language skills. We found that those who studied overseas, because they were overseas, they tended to have better communication skills. But put into an environment where everybody speaks English on a day-to-day basis, you find you get comfortable very, very fast. And after 12 months, you can't tell the difference between a local graduate and overseas graduate. In fact, some of the local graduates in Duopharma now, to this day, I still think he definitely came from overseas, etc., etc., because he's so confident now compared to when he first joined us. So, presenting projects in class, very, very key. Applying for a job and a job interview. Okay, this is where males, females berlainan. I've sat behind so many interviews where the interviewee takut look me in the eye. And it's mainly females, to be quite honest. I'm not trying to be gender biased here. The reality is, you've got a lot to offer, but you have to be more self-confident in what you're putting onto the table. I can tell you, it's among the guys, 8 out of 10 will look me in the eye. Maybe they know how to lie confidently. But for the ladies, only 2 out of 10 will actually be prepared to look me in the eye, and the rest will divert attention. And body language is as important as anything when you seek a job, etc. Especially when you're treating a patient, for the pharmacy students. If you can't look at the patient in the eye to tell them that this is what they have to do, then don't complain when the compliance rate is so low. Like, I've got stories about people who gone to government hospitals, ambil ubat ke rasa sakit. 2 days later they recover, so they stop taking the medication. So I asked them, and they would tell me, the pharmacist wasn't particularly interested when she told me about the medication. She didn't say I had to take it, etc., etc., etc. So the pharmacist in the dispensing role was not performing the role of a salesperson. If you want compliance, then you have to be able to convince the patient that you either take this course of 5 days worth of medication or habilayu, gone case. Not sure I'll see you at the hospital. I'm not saying use that. Okay? You have to say it with a sense of confidence. You must spend how many years in university? If that hasn't given you enough confidence on your knowledge, I don't know what else will. You can't wait till you're my age to develop self-confidence. The faster you have self-confidence with substance, the better you'll get along as you move forward. And everybody has something to sell. We try to encourage some of our managers to actually present when they want decisions from the management committee. And to be quite honest, I have a tough management committee. I have a CFO from hell. I've got my chief commercial officer is the neighbor to my CFO in hell. They really give you a hard time. But that's where you gain experience and resilience. Because one of the signs of a good salesperson is you never give up. If you believe in what you're doing, you never give up. And this is the other tenet I see sometimes among young graduates. They give up too quickly. You have a great idea, but just because 1 or 2 people told you to fly kites, doesn't mean the idea is any less good. Okay, so you have to persevere. And a good salesperson somebody with self-confidence will persevere. Because let me tell you, people like Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook, there were many, many failures before they become successful. Microsoft, these are things that were developed in a garage. Sekarang mana you hear all the IT kids have it easy. Nobody works in a garage anymore. You know, they get seed funding, a few million, and they have offices in KLCC. But you know, the thing is, you get turned down more than, especially if you're going to be in sales, professional sales. You're going to have people who say no. The question is, how resilient are you in terms of things? You're going to be an entrepreneur. You can't take no for an answer. If the idea is right, get good advice. And good advice never comes from a buyer, because the buyer will always say you're too expensive. Okay? Automatically, there's almost like a school of buying. The first thing they teach you is it's too expensive. So the question is, how do you do it? The other one, famous one. Like I said, everybody is a natural salesman, is a person, is whether you know it or not. When you court someone, okay, courting time, half the time you try to be somebody you're not, to impress your partner. Because that reality only comes post-marriage. But you know, you end up doing the salesmanship without you guys realizing it. And like I said, you cannot be an entrepreneur if you are not prepared to sell, to learn your selling skills. And it is learnable. You know, you have some people yang naturally boleh cakap. That one is more difficult to teach. But professional learning skills you can actually teach yourself. If you pick up books, etc., there are certain skills that you can be self-conscious about and learn to make sure that you correct yourself. So, key traits of a good salesperson, and like I said, I'm not taking salesperson as just jual, but it applies equally to jual, is you must know your subject matter. Okay, too often people try to sell something, they get rejected. One, they didn't take the opportunity to try to understand the buyer better, or what the company wanted, or the patient wanted, or they didn't know their products well enough. But you know, there's nothing to be shy about to admit you don't know something. I mean, I had a stint of about 6 years in sales. I was doing chemical sales, not pharmaceuticals. And sometimes I would just straight out tell a customer, what exactly does the company, your side, really want? Obviously, first one is cheaper. But it's number 2 and number 3 that was more important to me. Then he would tell me delivery was a problem, environmental concerns, etc. And you learn as you go along. So don't be afraid of asking questions. And then being able to articulate your points effectively to the audience. There's an interesting saying that I always keep at the back of my mind. I've been so tempted to say to some people. There is an old saying that says, if you don't know something, it's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than to open your mouth and prove you're stupid. Okay, think about it very carefully. Yeah? Appearing is not as bad as proving. So my advice, because I've got a son who's just getting his first job, and unfortunately overseas educated, so he thinks it's God's gift to the investment banking field. And I keep telling him, my only advice is this: for the first 3 years, listen more and talk less. Okay, because you can learn so much from so many different people. And the same thing applies to sales as well. Sometimes the ability to listen makes a good salesperson. Okay, so you need to balance it out. Knowing your audience, extremely key. If you go to a chain, a GP chain, and you can spend an hour and think you have the best relationship with that doctor, but if he's got no authority to buy, you just wasted your 1 hour as a salesperson. You have to know also when you go for a job interview, what is the company really looking for? And once you know that, then it's easier for you to, highlight those parts of either your personality or your expertise that will actually fit into a company's needs. Too often, you come in with an agenda and you don't stop to listen. Sometimes companies give you hints, sometimes interviewers will give you hints of what they're looking for. And during the interview, there's no, usually all interviews happen the same way. Do you have any questions? They will ask the interviewee. And it's very easy for the interviewee to say, yes, out of curiosity, what exactly are you looking for? Okay, because the first half hour is just tanya, and you've answered, but you haven't really catered for what the company or the institution is looking for. There's nothing stopping you asking the question. So it gives you the extra 5 minutes to sell yourself based on what the person himself said that they were looking for. Okay? And these are tactics that you can do in like I said, in any form of sales. But don't think you can be an entrepreneur. I cannot overemphasize this more. Don't think you can be an entrepreneur if you haven't developed selling skills. Self-confidence is key. It's one of the main reasons why a lot of candidates in interviews fails. Body language poor, they don't want to look you in the eye, they look at, one of our interview rooms, we have gambar agung kat belakang. You know this, huh? No, this is not agung, it's a gambar agung. And they spend the whole interview talking to the agung. I'm sitting there trying to attract their eyesight down. Okay, so this is things that you guys have to know. But differentiate sales from salesmanship. Okay, you need to develop professional selling skill. It is learnable. What we cannot teach you is to get over your self-consciousness. That you have to decide you want to do yourself. But once you're able to get over that, you find that the next portion, which is learning sales, become a lot easier. I'll give you an example. Like those days, in Malaysia especially, somebody will stand at the depan, Q&A session, senyap semua kan. But I used to go to international conferences and I used to pray, let there be somebody from India and somebody from Pakistan. Because if there's a Pakistani and somebody from Pakistan and somebody from India in the room, I didn't have to say anything. Because they will say everything. And whatever one said, the other one will say no, and vice versa. Okay? But for some reason, as much as it's amusing, why is it that they seem so self-confident relative to Malaysians? I've never been able to answer the question. The Caucasian classroom I studied in Australia, I can see how they were brought up. But in the context of India and Pakistan, it's always surprised me why among all Asians, the individuals from these universities, from institutes of learning from both India and Pakistan, tend to be more vocal. More vocal than the Chinese nationals from China, Malaysia, even Singapore. Singapore, they're getting there, that's why they're becoming more annoying. But they tend to be a little bit overly vocal. So as I said, self-confidence at the end of the day. You want to be an entrepreneur, nothing's stopping you. The world's your oyster at your age. Tapi just be prepared that don't think you're going to be successful if you think sales are not important to your future. Practice. You need to practice a lot. Okay? And like I said, dalam those project groups of 5-6 people, sometimes no matter how uncomfortable you are, put up your hand to volunteer to do presentation. Because that's where it starts. You better embarrass yourself in front of your friends rather than, to be quite honest, when embarrassing yourself in front of strangers feels worse. With your friends, at least you better with cup coffee, okay? You recover from the experience. But when you have to do it in front of a group of strangers, then it really hurts, especially if you lose your confidence. As I said, listen, always very, very key. And this is, in business, nothing is personal. It's business. I've told lots of friends, I get a lot of emails from friends to say, can I recommend my uncles, cousins, third nephew's daughter to work with Duopharma. And I tell them the same thing, fine, give me the CV, I'll pass it to HR, but I don't get involved beyond that. It's all up to the individual. I can only make sure that CV gets to the right person. Similarly, there are a lot of cases where people will call me and say that I've opened a new company, I want to sell XYZ to Duopharma. I'll put them in touch with my purchasing. But I always write to my purchasing, choice is entirely left up to the individual. And I'm not embarrassed to tell a close friend, sorry, you didn't get the business. Because it's not my choice to make. There's a whole process we go through. If you pass, you pass. If you don't pass, you don't pass. But what I can help is make sure your application goes to the right individual. So rejection is something you guys all have to be used to. So what if you have to apply to 10 companies for a job eventually, or 20? The trick is you only want one at the end of the day. You can't work with 20. So why are you going to be disappointed with getting rejected by 90? So we understand that it's never personal. In most cases, it's all business decisions. And listening from seniors, peers, always seek best practices. Okay, mentorships are always good things. But you have to choose your mentor very carefully. Make sure you have a mentor that's got the requisite experience. You don't ask somebody about business who's not done any business before. Okay, then that's not the right mentor. You need to be able to get a mentor who will be able to help you in your decision making. So similarly, if you are looking to work within the government, then the right mentor is to get somebody who actually worked through the government system. Similarly, you want to work in the private sector, there's no use asking somebody who's worked in the government sector all their life. You need to get proper advice. So sales in Duopharma, our reps, okay, this is the part, because students, sometimes you're too shy to ask the real question in a time. Like whenever I have done presentations like this, nobody has put up their hand and said, yeah, you're telling us to sell. How much can I get as a salesman? I don't get this sort of questions. The average sales salary for a high-performing rep in the company is between 15 to 18,000 a month. Okay, I have one staff who's on 22,000 at the moment. Tanda, get promoted, because the moment she gets promoted, she will drop out of the commission scheme, and I can only pay 18,000. So she'll lose 4,000 per month if she opted for the promotion. So she's happy to become a glorified rep because of the income level. To each their own, I don't begrudge her. But in sales, and this is pharmaceuticals kat Duopharma. Okay? So for those who say you cannot make a career of sales rubbish, the highest earning individuals in the company at the moment, on average, are the sales team. Okay? The rest of us kena tunggu setahun buat dapat bonus. They have a commission system, so every month they get a bonus. So it's a question of performance. Unlike other jobs, we never know how well or how badly you did. In sales, you always know how well or badly you did. Because every month you're monitored, every week you're monitored as a performance. So our sales staff will sell ethical consumer. It's a rewarding career. We have, the problem is we have a low attrition rate. Partly because the income is very good, nobody wants to leave. And so we unfortunately have to be a little bit proactive in encouraging some people to leave. Our project team also sell their projects to the board, etc. And the marketing team have to sell their marketing plan on an annual basis for us to approve, especially when they want more funding. Encik Shamsul was in front of us yesterday promoting his plan for our Youfa Mall 650. And effectively he's doing it within his budget. But I'm not surprised within the next 6 months, if it's very successful, he'll be in front asking for more money, right? Yeah. So that all involves an element of selling. So as I said in conclusion, everybody already is a salesperson. It's just a question whether you realize it, embrace it, and take advantage of it. So I had a sales manager before. Now here, I didn't mention his name, Tuan Haji Nik Muhammad Noor. He was the best salesperson I've ever met. His interaction skills were fantastic. Cuma he had one major flaw. dia tak erti close the sale. Everybody wanted to buy from him, tapi dia tak erti close the sale. He would go and see the same person 15 times, even though I knew the person was prepared to place an order after the second time. Yeah. So, nobody wanted him in the organization. So, somebody proposed him to me, so I took him on, because I figured out I just needed somebody to do the legwork. I will do the closure. And between the two of us, we were one of the most productive teams in the company, because I used to live behind my desk. It was very easy. I only go out to close the sales. He would do everything. Bawa the buyer, pergi coffee lah, PR lah, etc., etc. He just couldn't close. So it's important. Sales is not sales until you get the money. Okay, it's not when you sell. It's until you get the money. Then it's sales. So salesmanship involves getting to the right outcome. Not just about, as I said, remember, there's always somebody in that group, always overconfident but no substance. You find those are the guys who tend to be able to do half the sales job but can't do the full cycle. They can't close the sale. And like I said, don't be afraid of being rejected. Either by partner, job interview, etc., etc. Because it's never, being partner is personal, but it's you know, you have to get used to it. Especially the pharmacy students. Dulu 3 pharmacy schools kat Malaysia, sekarang 16, 17, 19. Okay, so there's huge competition for jobs out there, but there's so many different pathways. So somebody once asked me, am I concerned about the number of pharmacy schools? My answer is no, not initially, because there's so many roles in Malaysia that should be filled by pharmacists, but it's being filled by Form 5 individuals. And I'm talking about which department? Sales. The entire sales department for most of the pharmaceutical companies are filled by people that are by Form 5. They are good at talking, they are streetwise, and they make a living out of that. And the only way we're going to professionalize the industry, the whole industry, not just the Duopharma, is to make sure there are more professionals in the role of sales. And I'm talking about detailing. So to me, there's nothing embarrassing about having a pharmacy degree, getting your forensics or what bits and pieces, your etc., and then going to sales. We have one staff who's a medical doctor. I don't know why she became a medical doctor, because that's good agak. So she's not practicing. So she's now in our sales. Right? And recently she had a meeting among all her colleagues. And within 3 years, she's earning more than all the other doctors that graduated with her. So you can make a career in non-traditional career areas. You don't have to be, I'm saying that sales is a skill you should be developed. But for pharmacy students, I would suggest that you seriously consider a sales line, because we are in dire need of professionalizing the entire pharmaceutical industry. And it's not just making the drugs, it's also how we sell, the ethics and the governance behind sales, etc. Those are jobs that should be filled by pharmacists, not by how they're filled at the moment. So there are opportunities out there, 16 or 18 schools, whatever. As long as the roles that should be filled by pharmacists are filled by pharmacists, there will be opportunities out there. Okay, leave you with a quote: "To live a happy life, I to a goal, not to people or things," by Albert Einstein. So always think about yourself in terms of the goal of what you want to do. If you want to be an entrepreneur, but you don't believe you're good at sales, then for God's sake, get your skills up, sharpen your skills on sales. Because without that, forget the entrepreneurship side. It's going to be more difficult. And tomorrow, Shamsu, with the JATI students, we'll be talking a little bit more about the marketing element. But you know yourself best. You've got this far in your career. Now, if you want to have a fulfilling career going forward, you have to understand that there is an element that you have to sell yourself with substance, not just selling yourself. With that, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yang sudah majukan sebarang soalan kepada Encik Leonard Ariff kita. Kita buka. Ada tak? Ya, okey. Adik.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. I'm Jasril Lee from JATI UKM. My question is based on what you have taught just now, that we have to have the ability to sell ourselves, right? So I'm quite wondering. Sometimes we think that we have we gain that confidence, but how to make sure that we are not overconfident, and what is the signs that you are being overconfident? That's for me. Thank you.
Okey, ada lagi tak? Kalau Mr. Encik Leonard kita ni ada soalan kedua. Prof Alham.
So, this is our fourth year working with CEO at faculty program. I try not to miss any of the CEO talks because I get a lot of things, new things out of my scope. And you are economists, and now you are the CEOs of the pharmaceutical company. And from your experience, how you gather the knowledge, the substance on pharmacists, to be a pharmacist. You use all the terminologies that, bombastic terminology that I cannot understand. No? And how is your experience getting to know that substance, that knowledge for the past few years?
Okey. Silakan.
Okay, hi.
Kenalkan diri.
Hi, my name is Ainul. I'm from JATI Pharmacy. My question is, can I know what is your biggest challenge in pharmaceutical industry and how you and your team overcome the challenge?
Okey, kita silakan dulu Encik Leonard Ariff untuk
I just want to
Okay.
How to avoid coming across as overconfident? Remember what I said about it's not much point having self-confidence with no substance. Your question is the opposite. You've got substance and you don't want to appear overconfident. The problem 90% of the time is your audience. Okay, if you're dealing with somebody, okay, this might sound quite bad. You need to be able to read your audience quite well. And in some cases, you have to appear cleverer than you really are. And other times, appear stupider. Okay? Because you have to adjust. And to be quite honest, I do this lots of times. Okay? I can't communicate with my factory people at the level I just communicated just now. I would simplify. So if I know during a presentation, we do town halls at Duopharma. During the town hall, my presentations are a lot simpler and I'm slower by 30% in my communication. Okay, just to make sure the message gets across. The only way you can avoid being seen to be overconfident is also be self-aware on how you manage your, for instance, I don't know whether this year we're doing Minggu Amanah Saham in Sungai Petani. I don't know, some of the JATI students may. You'll be dealing, kalau you nak jual a bottle of, fish oil, the way you sell to an urban buyer and the way you want to attract in a kampong buyer are actually two very different things. That's one of the reasons why Malaysia, if you ask me, what's the most poisonous thing about the pharmaceutical industry in Malaysia? It's multi-level marketing. Because there's no training provided by the individual. That makcik just has a glib tongue, goes from house to house to house to house, and sells the same product for 3 times the price that the consumer could buy just by buying from Guardian. My hope is that as internet penetration gets better in Malaysia, then MCM will be one of those industries that will become an outlier, rather than such a prime supply into the rural household at the moment. So, as I said, the only way you can make sure you don't appear you only come across as being overly confident is when you're not adjusting your messaging. So you just need to learn some cases. I mean, if you're talking to your dean, lain kan daripada talking to, let's say, your friends, you do it naturally. You just have to realize with strangers, you have to be cautious about how much you say or at what level you're pitching your idea. Okay. Okay. 30 years is a long time. If I haven't learned anything in 30 years, I have a major problem. Okay. Apart from some professional qualifications, and professional qualifications are what I call monopoly qualifications, accounting, lawyers, doctors to a degree. I'm of the school of thought that when I interview an individual, there are only two criteria I look at. Dua sahaja bila saya mau interview. Aptitude and attitude. Okay? Attitude is how open you are to new experiences. Aptitude is how you will gain from those new experiences. Because I work on the basis, if you've had a degree from a decent university, dah cukup dah. Okay? Because what you learn in university, you're not going to use a lot of it in working life. But university teaches you a sense of discipline, the thought processes, etc., etc. So I don't look at the qualification as much. I look at basically what I call core competency of the individual. If you have the right attitude, you have aptitude. So because of that, I also end up very curious about different things. So I read a lot. Okay, I spend at least 2 hours a day. Actually, in the last week, it's almost been 6-7 hours because we're in the middle of doing our annual report. So I've gone through multiple drafts of the annual report. But I don't think in the current climate where information is so readily available that you can progress in your career without keeping up to date as to what is changing. So, I mean, I just happen to do it in a pharmaceutical. But as I've, before I was in pharmaceuticals, I was heading a paints company. I always regard myself as a professional manager. The product doesn't count. I can sell anything. But my core skill is as a manager. And it just so happens this is my 13th year in pharmaceuticals. So I'm already starting to think maybe pharmaceutical, the tooth on my forehead. Time for a change of environment. But yeah, you learn, and I've got a good management team who are industry experts. So they are able to provide a lot of advice in those areas that I don't know. So I think the message is you never stop learning and absorbing. And there are people, acknowledge the people who know more than you, because the moment you acknowledge it, they're prepared to teach you a lot as well. Challenge in farms industry. Okay, what's the biggest challenge? Ada orang from Ministry of Health tak dalam bilik dia, tak ada kan? Ada? Okay. Okay. Then I'll be more careful how I do this. No, I describe myself as a curious observer. Over the last few years, we've, as a company, invested almost 40 million in Korea, in startup R&D companies. And people sometimes ask me, kenapa you invest kat Korea, tak invest kat Malaysia? Right? So it started me thinking, why is it? It must be something about the environment. And I think I put my finger on it. The latest incident is we bought some shares in a stem cell company in Korea. So as part of our process, we have to do a due diligence. So we started talking to some professors who shall remain unnamed in Malaysia. And surprise, surprise, the technology yang syarikat ke SEM to have, which they had patented, the professors from Malaysia were fully conversant with the technology. In fact, they had used it in their laboratories. So it wasn't how innovative you are. I've come to the conclusion, innovation in Malaysia is just as good as in Singapore, as in Korea, as in Japan. that is not where the differences are happening. The differences are happening in two areas. In Korea, you have a regulatory authority that promotes innovation. That's the first part, okay? In other words, nobody's going to tell that person. In fact, it's interesting, they're doing a clinical study on atopic dermatitis medication, stem cell based, but they're doing it in Australia because the Korean authorities actually told the company it's faster if you do the clinical study in Australia than to do it in Korea because it's, I think, allogenic stem cells, so Australia doesn't have certain conditions that Korea has. So they actually provide, the regulatory authorities provide an advisory service. We have one guy who is very advanced in stem cells in Malaysia, and he's been told by the regulatory authorities, don't know how to register your product. Tak apa lah, you pergi register kat US FDA, after dapat tu baru you come and register with us. Okay, that increases investment cost. He's trying to raise 100 million now in order to do that. So that's a regulatory hurdle. The second issue is even if I get over the regulatory hurdle, can I monetize the investment? And that's how do I make money out of this investment? The capital market in Korea, we've invested in 2 companies. Both companies tak pernah make a profit. In fact, in some cases, tak ada revenue. All they have is the technology that's patented. The first one has gone for public listing, and at the point they went for listing, they were worth more than Duopharma. Tak ada profit, 40 orang, everything, you look at that, profit and loss semua mega. But the stock market in Korea gave them a valuation higher than Duopharma. Okay? The second company we invested in is a company called SCM, Stem Cell. Same thing, hardly any revenue, all losses. They're about to go for public listing in 4th quarter this year, 4th quarter this year or 1st quarter next year. And I'm quite convinced that when they go for listing, they'll be worth more than Duopharma. Okay? So the capital market or stock market in Korea recognize the value of science that is protected. Patented products, so you have to have a patented product. There is a process you go through where that your technology is peer reviewed, and then eventually you go for listing. So once you get listed, then you get more money to finish off your research, and hopefully it leads to commercialization, and then you become a billion-dollar company. So going back to your question, what is the biggest challenge we in pharmaceutical have is the fact that I think we have a really, really good regulatory system, but I'm not convinced it promotes innovation. That's the first one. And then the second part is the capital markets. Have you heard the term herd mentality? Okay, herd mentality is very big in Malaysia. How many of you have heard that we're building a vaccine plant in Malaysia? There's no such thing as a vaccine plant. You have a factory that produces one vaccine. Okay, you don't have a vaccine plant. Bina plant ni 12 produk keluar. Because you've got fermentation, you've got bioreactor technology, you've got so many different types of technology. We've gone down this road before. And this is very frustrating for me as I think General Alim knows about this. There used to be a company called 9Bio, set up to produce vaccines in Malaysia. Okay? And then shut down because they were promising everybody around the world, I'm going to be, you want TB, boleh. You want diphtheria, boleh. You want dengue, boleh. You know, everything. And then of course it failed. And the worst part about it, okay, you take a risk and something fails. They had to write off nearly 1 billion ringgit was spent on it. And what really made me upset was, they had a laboratory at Enstec, I believe. Instructions given to the laboratory, because they did not jual nampak, you know, they wanted to tender out all the equipment because they were closing down. The instructions given to Pricewaterhouse was doing it. Instructions given to Pricewaterhouse, international tender Malaysian companies tak boleh participate. Because they want to keep it quiet, they didn't want it to blow up. Tender closed at 12 o'clock. There was a piece of equipment that was valued at about 900,000. Somebody from India put in a bid and won at 150,000 ringgit. Tutup pukul 12, pukul 3 he was on the phone to me and said, hey Leonard, you only pick up a piece of equipment for 600,000. And he bought it 150,000 that morning. But I couldn't participate. Mistakes happen, we just have to move on. But like I said, I think this vaccine thing really worries me. I have the capability at Duopharma to do ACWY 135 vaccine. Kita dah ada a line that has already been validated by the regulatory authorities. ACWY is the meningitis vaccine for buang pergi Hajj. We actually have a line. We don't manufacture because you have to find a source for ACWY in order to put it together to make the meningitis vaccine. So to say we don't have the vaccine capability in Malaysia is wrong. We actually have it. We've got the first line in Malaysia sitting in Duopharma, but we're not focusing on it at the moment. There are certain reasons we're not, because although our facility can only handle inert vaccines, we can't do live vaccines. And we're now actually looking at the possibility, how do we go about making more vaccines if we had to. But coming from a commercial side, we're looking at what is practical. Because the Malaysian market is small. Because that's also very frustrating. We can do a lot more in Duopharma if our population was twice the size. So I'm waiting for the day when Tun starts back on the 17 million population again. Because if we have that, a lot more that we can do in Malaysia, a lot more we can localize. Okay? So yeah, those are examples of things that are challenges for us in the pharmaceutical industry.
UKM telah bermula pada 2013 dan sejak itu telah banyak memberi peluang kepada pelajar melalui latihan keusahawanan menggunakan produk-produk Duopharma Biotech Berhad. Sebagai salah satu aktiviti di bawah program JATI ini, seramai 50 orang mahasiswa UKM rentas fakulti akan menjalani program Kem Keusahawanan JATI yang akan berlangsung selama 3 hari, mulai hari ini bertempat di Kem Al-Azhar Mori. Justru hari sekian, Majlis mempersilakan Prof. Dato' Imran bersama Encik Leonard Ariff untuk bersama-sama menjayakan simbolik pelancaran Kem Keusahawanan JATI pada teman-teman. Simbolik pelancaran kali ini dihasilkan sebetulnya hasil usaha kreatif para mahasiswa di bawah program JATI UKM. Berikan tuan para pelajar JATI UKM. Okey, persilakan Dato' Imran, Encik Leonard Ariff dan Prof. Jamiah untuk memberikan tanda tangan di banting pelancaran. Okey. Apa kata hashtag jom kita saksikan montaj video pengenalan program JATI.